All right, everyone. Welcome to episode 1 of Shiken Spirit of the Samurai channel. And the timing seems really good to launch this now that Shogun has ended and people are still really feeling the need for the next thing. Perhaps not realizing that there is an entire forest of Japanese samurai films out there, an entire library of just 5-star films that I want to bring to your attention. So I thought I'd do that by starting off the first episode with a film that has absolutely nothing to do, well, not nothing to do, but is not about samurai. I thought I would start off with the Shinobi No Mono series from 1962. And Shinobi No Mono loosely translates to the ninjas. And this is the film that was responsible in Japan for starting the ninja craze that later carried over to America in the 1980s when Shokusugi came over here and started making those canon films, if you remember them correctly. And Shinobi No Mono is essentially a series of 8 films. So we're looking at the first one, number 1, and it's called Band of Assassins. And it's historical fiction and related to the Shogun James Clavell story, in that we had Toranaga-sama in Shogun attempting to become the chief warlord, the Shogun. And this is based on the men that came before Toranaga-sama, or the man that he was based on, Tokugawa Ieyasu, who did go on to become shogun and usher in 300 years of peace. But before Tokugawa Ieyasu, the first man who attempted to become shogun was a man named Oda Nobunaga. And Oda Nobunaga wanted to unite Japan, but he did it in an extraordinarily bloody way. And we're talking about torture and murder and the eradication of entire communities that may have opposed his role. So how does that tie into Shinobi No Mono? Well, the ninjas of that time were essentially from one particular section, the Iga section of Japan, were eradicated by Nobunaga. He declared war on them. They declared war on each other, and they fought a hell of a fight, but eventually sheer numbers and technology, by that I mean firearms and, cannon and those sorts of things, overcame the ninja or the shinobi of that area, and they ceased to exist. So this story is based on that in a way. And Nobunaga is on his way to, claim the throne of the shogun, but is violently opposed by the shinobi clan leader Sendayu, who just cannot abide this awful, violent, vile human being. So he sends his entire clan out, basically, or tells them that the motivation for the entire clan's existence now is the death of Nobunaga. They serve really no other purpose, although through generations they've always worked for local lords or someone else, but always for the betterment of Japan. It's not the thing that you see typically in, more modern films where they're, these sort of just villainous people, these sorts of things. They were people that could be employed by a local warlord or a daimyo or, some sort of, local leader to do something essentially that was for the betterment of the community, even if it meant killing someone. So they might do a dark thing, but eventually it was for a good purpose. And this film takes that to the furthest possible extreme. Now, the main character in the movie is a young man named Goemon, and Goemon is a young shinobi of very, big talent, but also kind of brash. He's young and, he feels himself. He's very bright. So, not just the physical skills, but he can intuit in the field what the right thing is to do. when to, take physical action, when to hang back, anticipating what someone else's reaction might be. So he's someone who seems to be on the rise. Now, he compromises himself by becoming involved with the clan leader's wife, who is sort of this scorned woman who, just the clan leader seems to have no time for her whatsoever. So once this affair is discovered, his life is in danger from the clan leader. And, he's greatly ashamed of himself. And the clan leader tells him, well, the one way that you can redeem yourself is I'm going to send you out to kill Nobunaga. Other people have gone out. We see this in the film, trying to kill Nobunaga. They meet a very bloody end. But this guy may be the guy that you break glass in event of war. We need this guy dead. You're the guy to do it. And now you're not in a position to say no. The story sort of unfolds from there. But what we find out along the way, and I don't want to give away too many spoilers, is that the clan leader Sendayu is playing a dual role. He's also, through disguise, the clan leader of a rival clan. And he is pitting both clans against each other. It's like this really complicated ninja trick where he is assuming two roles and pitting both clans against each other for the same goal, which is the death of Nobunaga. And to understand what I mean when I said earlier that you might have to do dark things for a good purpose, we find out later that he has maneuvered Goemon quite deviously. So much so that he murdered his father to isolate him, so much so that the wife that he had, that Goemon has an affair with, was brought in specifically for that purpose, even against her own knowledge. She had no idea. She was just this wife who he suddenly had no interest in. His calculation being that she's going to kind of throw herself at this young rising star because the clan leader is much older. So you've got murder and you've got manipulation and just this sort of really brutal time in Japanese history, the Sengoku period, where all of these different clans and lords were vying for power. Deals are being struck, all sorts of just complicated, complex things that you typically do not see in a samurai film. Usually in a samurai film, there's a strict code. Maybe somebody goes outside the code for good or for bad, and there are ensuing consequences from there. Sometimes they have humor. You can go with the sort of Yojimbo or Sanjuro kind of character, the rascally rogue. There's none of that here. These are people that are playing for big stakes. The shinobi under Sendayu, under the second leader, Nagato, they are playing for what they perceive to be the betterment of Japan, and they're doing really awful things for that purpose. Really vile, really terrible things, blackmail, reputation destroying, all sorts of techniques. You get a really interesting insight into what perhaps it really would have been like to have been a shinobi in that time of the world. You get to see, because Dr. Masaki Hatsumi, who was the ninja grandmaster, recently retired, he's still with us, fortunately, did some of the technical consulting for these series of films. So you're seeing authentic techniques of unarmed combat, of weapons, of the philosophies and creeds of the ninja, some of the stealth techniques, even using things like poisons. It's a real treat if you enjoyed something like Shogun. This is something you would definitely enjoy. It's not a slow story. It's not boring. And like a lot of Japanese storytelling, like Shogun, they aren't action films, but there's sufficient amount of action in them to keep your interest, along with just a great and fantastic story. Ultimately sort of realizing that perhaps, and it's said throughout the film that the ninja's life is meaningless because he just has to go where he or she, the kunoichi, who is not really a ninja, but the female sort of assistant who may go along on missions. Their life is sort of meaningless. It can be thrown away, with a word from their clan leader. You're going to go. We see that a lot of lives are lost in this movie. A lot of lives, and not in a comic way, in a very brutal way. I mean, this was 60 years ago. But I just watched Band of Assassins last night for the first time in quite a while, and it still gets you. Some of the violence gets you. The violence, the real world violence, has consequences for the people that are survivors, for the victors in a fight. You can see that they are marked by these things that they've been forced to do, and that they struggle with it. It's a fantastic film. Band of Assassins, I cannot recommend it highly enough. So again, you have people doing villainous things, but for a noble cause. Because you see that no matter what the ninja or shinobi or the clan leaders are doing, what would happen to Japan under Oda Nobunaga is far worse. Now, where can you find this film? That's the catch. That's the onion. And it's funny because there's actually a version of Band of Assassins. Band of Assassins is on YouTube for free. But for some reason, it's Spanish subtitles, which doesn't help. This isn't a movie that streams. It's not a movie that streams. I happen to have a Japanese collection of the box set, all 8 films. I've owned these movies probably for about 20 years, but you probably can find them on Amazon or anywhere else. If you are a fan of Shogun, this and the movies that I will be recommending out here are the things that you want to see. If I would give this movie a rating, Band of Assassins, scale of 1 to 5, I'd probably go with a 4.5. It's really, really that good. Excellent storytelling. The lighting, even the way that the lighting is set up in this film, because you're dealing with ninja that are doing clandestine things at night without special effects, without CGI. This isn't Ninja Assassin from like 10 years ago or whatever that was, where you had, these sort of people just rising out of shadows. I was so impressed with some of the scenes in the dark. They're actually quite frightening because you almost can't see, what's happening. You can't, but it's just at that thin line between not being able to see. This isn't Game of Thrones, The Long Night. But, I mean, hey, it's nighttime, and, that's when a lot of things are going to happen. Yeah, I'm going absolutely 4.5 out of 5. Fantastic. If you get a chance, please watch it. That's my video. I'm probably going to be releasing a video, I'd say once a week. So I think I'm going to go with the next one in the Shinobi No Mono series, which I believe is called Vengeance. And yeah, that's my video. I certainly hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you in the next one. All right, take care, everyone. God bless you. Bye-bye.